if you've ever had wrist pain playing golf, then you might want to tune into this story. My name's Mike Bury and I'm a golf instructor, and I just had wrist surgery a couple of days ago, and I wanted to share my story with you. There's no medical advice here and no doctor's names, just my story that I wanted to share with you guys. So we're going to wind back the clock all the way back to 2009, and I was a golf instructor working for Jim McLean. At the time, I was practicing my bunker shots, and I got this wicked pain across the top of my hand. So I stopped hitting balls that day and the pain kind of went away, but my wrist started snapping. And it didn't hurt at first, but a couple of days after snapping, it started to become quite sore. And around that time, I was actually heading back to Australia to see family, and I saw a therapist. I'm not exactly sure what kind of therapist, but they gave me an ultrasound guided steroid injection into the sheath of the tendon. And I go back to the United States. A couple of weeks go by, I started practicing again, and the pain was still right there, just as it was before. So as time went on, it became more and more sore, and I had to take breaks, and the breaks became longer, and the pain kind of got worse. And so a few years go by, it's 2013, I go and see a wrist surgeon. And what he explained to me at the time was that there's like a cuff inside of your wrist, and that cuff had gotten kind of stretched out. And the tendons were essentially kind of loose, and the snapping was the tendons flicking over a notch, and they became inflamed. And what he said at that point in time was, he said, "You're not playing competitively anymore." He said, "You can play and take breaks." He said, "The surgery is not great." He said, "I wouldn't do the surgery right now. Let's see how it goes." He said, "Go and practice and go and kind of beat the wrist up a little bit and come back and see me." The problem was that I couldn't practice. It was too painful. I couldn't beat it up and go back and see him. So as time went on, the breaks in between became longer. The pain got worse, and it's kind of like a bolt of lightning going through my arm, through my wrist. And it was more so like in the follow through, and I would actually drop the club. Like I couldn't hold on to the club. And once it was sore, I couldn't even open a car door. Like I couldn't push, I couldn't, opening a jar was like not a chance. And like I said, the breaks in between became longer and longer. And there were points there where I didn't play golf for a year. And the only swinging that I could do was I'd have my wrist severely taped up, and I could demonstrate in lessons, and that was about it. In 2021, I saw another doctor, and for like lack of a better explanation, we started doing, let's call it like physical therapy work. And my wrist seemed like it started to get better. I was able to hit some balls, I was able to increase volume. I played 9 holes a few times, I played 18 holes a few times. And then I hurt my back, and I had 4 bulging discs. I couldn't swing a club, and I stopped doing the wrist work. And the wrist just went all the way back to, square one. So with that, I decided to see a wrist surgeon in 2023. And I went, this is kind of a long story, but long story short, the day that I was seeing the surgeon to discuss my MRI results was the same day that myself, my son, my wife were flying to Australia. And it was one of those hospitals where you have to valet the car, right? Keep that in mind. I'll come back to that in a minute. So anyway, I see the surgeon, and he goes over the MRI results, and he says, "There's nothing that I see here for you surgically." And, what I was looking for was something. Anything was going to be like a win, even if it was bad news. If it was, this is not going to be fun, but here's what we're going to do, and then there's, kind of light at the end of the tunnel. But to hear that was just devastating. To hear that there was nothing that, he saw as a path to improving this, it was just an absolute gut punch. And I said to him, "Well, what about physical therapy?" And he said, I don't think that's going to help you either. He said, "I just don't think you're going to be able to play golf." And with that, he just jabbed me with a steroid shot and kind of sent me on my way. And at the hospital, my wife, my son, and we head down to get the keys, and the valet had lost the keys to the car. And we have an international flight to Australia in about 5 hours' time. We had to Uber back home to get the spare keys. And anyway, long story short, with a lot of stress later, we ended up getting on the plane and getting to Australia. But all of that with like no path forwards, and that not doing anything was just not a possibility in my mind. And so I spoke to my doctor and I told him, this was the outcome. And I said, is there another surgeon that I can see? And so he said yes. And then I said, can I do some physical therapy in the meantime? So I started doing physical therapy again, and things started to move in the right direction. And the surgeon that I saw is the surgeon that did the surgery. This was not like the first step. We did a whole bunch of other things. We tested nerves. There was, I want to say, no stone left unturned. And things were moving in the right direction with the physical therapy. I was able to hit balls again. I was increasing volume. I actually played 9 holes twice. And that was huge because I hadn't played golf in over a year. And whilst it seemed like we were making progress, this was over the 4th of July holiday. It was actually the 3rd of July. I was hitting golf balls, and through the session, my wrist became incredibly sore. That evening, my wrist was on fire, and I woke up the next day like my hand had blown up. And I spoke to the surgeon. She ordered MRIs, and I had those MRIs. I was actually heading to Australia again. And she said, brace up the wrist. And we got the MRI results. So long story short, multiple tears. And when I had surgery just a couple of days ago, the surgeon got in there and said it was a complete mess. There was inflammation everywhere. There was a huge tear in the TFCC. So she did all of the repair, cleanup, some kind of like heat shrinking situation. Long story short, we're hoping to be moving in the right direction. I'm going to be like this for 2 weeks, and then I go into another cast for 4 weeks, and then I can start rehab. And, all of this to say, this has been 15 years of pain. I've missed a lot of golf. And I really love playing golf. I love playing with my friends. I love playing with my students. I have a son, and I would love nothing more than to tee it up and play golf with him if that's something that he wants to do. And I really hope that golf is in my future, to be able to play with my son and my wife and go on golf trips would truly be a dream come true. And I enjoy every second that I have with helping people improve their game. I would love the opportunity to work on my game again. And so, all of that to say, if you're somebody that has had wrist pain, is experiencing wrist pain, go and see somebody. And this is like, hopefully you don't end up here. There's a lot of other things you can do before you get to that point. But, I know a lot of you are out there struggling. I got a lot of DMs from you guys that have had wrist pain and play with wrist pain. And so please go and check it out. I wish nothing but the best for you. And I'm truly grateful for all of the well wishes that you guys have sent me. And, I hope that at some point in the future that, I'll be able to see you guys on the golf course teeing it up. But until then, I appreciate it, and I wish you guys all the best.